Okay, all right. The new Stuarts, part two. All right, basically, we left off with that wonderful discovery of some of our forefathers that did things really wonderful. Captain, look, we'll give you twice the going rate of what it will cost you to buy new cannons for your ship for your used cannons here now today. Okay, let's go on with this. Now, basically, these are crucial things to understand in structure because of the different proposals of why I'm going to do things. Because people have to understand there's a historical baseline for all the things that I propose. It's part of who we are. So, as we're dealing with all this stuff, and we're coming into part two of basically the new Stuarts, we have to deal with all of these different understandings. So basically, our forefathers did something. Basically, what they did was, well, let me just help you out with this. We're going to leave the docks. We're going to go get on our horses. We're going to ride out. And here's what they did. They went around and they said, "Hey, how you doing?" Walk up to the guy and says, "I see you're chopping a bunch of trees down here. I'd like to talk about production here. How many acres you got?" The guy looks at him and says, "You know how many acres I got. You got the map. You know exactly who I am and where you're at." And okay, I do. Okay. So look, I'll get straight to it. I don't have much time today. I got a lot of people to see. So here's the thing. I want to increase your productivity. I want you to add a lumber mill here. And I want you to increase your productivity. The guy says, "That's great. You know, if I had the money to upgrade it for sure, and if I could get a hold of a big saw wheel, we would do that." He says, "Well, here, let me take care of that for you here. Give him some paperwork there, Captain." So now all of a sudden, here you go. You're set up. It's all good to go. You got a voucher. It's signed. It's valid. You're good to go. And the guy says, "Well, but how am I going to, you're authorizing this creative loan deal. How am I going to be able to make all the payments?" "Oh, well, we're guaranteed to buy 30% of your inventory. Will that work for you?" And he says, "Yeah, that'll make the payments." He says, "And we're going to be wanting to build a whole lot more warehouses. So you're going to get a lot more business. So, okay, I got to keep going. You have a good day. I'll run into you later on. We can talk." So he moves down the road and he runs into a guy that's got a sawmill already and says, "Hey, look, I noticed you got production going here real good, and you've already figured this out. You got an efficient operation. I want you to hire more people and double your production." And the guy says, "Yeah, but I'd have to build another mill house here, you know, and I got to have a saw blade, and I got to be able to get the money." And the guy says, "Well, here you go. Let me give you a voucher. We'll back this." And the guy says, "Yeah, but how?" He says, "I don't know. I may not be able to make that loan." He says, "Well, how about we guarantee we'll buy 10% of your inventory?" He says, "Well, that would just barely get me there. I'll tell you what, we'll bump it up to 30%. The guy says, "All right, we can do this. Here you go." So he says, "I got to go meet some of the people." Moves down the road, keeps going down the road, runs into some people, got a little furniture factory. Goes in there and says, "Hey, I noticed you got this furniture factory going. You got assembly line, doing real good. Look, I want you to double your production right away." And the guy says, "I don't have enough room. I need structure. You know, I'm going to need some more tools." The guy says, "Well, here's a voucher. Here you go." And he says, "Yeah, but there could be a problem with the tools." "Well, you just come down and put the list of what you think you need down on my desk at my office, and I'm going to get it taken care of." The guy says, "All right." He says, "Yeah, but double production." He says, "You're guaranteed. We're guaranteed to buy 30+% and help you route your products worldwide. Worldwide." The guy says, "Okay, we'll do this." So he gets off and he goes down the road. This repeats again and again and again. Products change, different types of stuff. You run into people. They are basically blacksmith. People work with metal. They're making things, on it goes. So back to town, he goes, and he has a bunch of people screaming at him. What are you doing? You're building warehouses all over the place. You're using government money, filling these warehouses full of furniture. What are you doing? This is corrupt. He says, no, this is financial wellness, and we're helping to convey fast, accelerated growth of our nation and build it from A to Z, everything, as fast as humanly possible. So it's an interesting thing to deal with, how this is possible, that this can basically happen. So these people are like, I don't know. And he says, that's fine. Come with me. Let me show you something. Takes him over. Says, we're going to go to this building. He says, what is this? This is an auxiliary treasury. Some people didn't know about this one. And they go in there, and the guy looks around, and he says, you got piles of metal all over the floors. We'll open the bags. He says, well, they're all pennies. Almost everything in here are pennies. It's copper. I says, you want me to throw it away? Is that money or not? Well, yeah, that's money. Okay, that's money. So let me take you over here. So see these guys right here? They're sorting these out. They're putting them in that pile over there. Here, let me take you along over here. See, they're loading it up outside onto this little wagon. They're taking this down to the smelter. George, why don't you explain what's in this? He says, well, these coins have about 5% silver because they were originally made impure, and these are older coins. We're retrieving them, and we're resmelting them. We're going to make our own pennies, and we're harvesting the silver. And of course, here's a piece of paperwork. As you can see, we are making a profit off resmelting and extracting the silver beyond the entire value of what these pennies are worth. Okay, this way. Let me take you down to the docks. We're going to go down to the docks now. Takes him down to the docks. He says, here, look up over there. He says, you see those 3 wagons? He says, yeah, looks like they're loading bags of something heavy. Pennies. That's an in. That ship's bringing in the pennies. He says, so you're shipping this cargo worldwide? He says, yeah, we got people go first pick. They want to pick the best looking furniture, and then we're going to sell the rest of it regardless of loss. We're going to get this happening. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. And the guy says, I don't believe this. This is crazy. He says, this is creative commerce. So the captain comes over. The captain walks up and says, okay, you make sure your guys are here, because I'm not leaving port till my 3 witnesses are on board, because I got no more cannon in there. Well, that'll certainly happen, sir. I guarantee it. And the guy says, well, how about a deposit here now? We didn't quite get all of our paper. Here you go. Here's a voucher. Go right down here and get yourself a voucher. Here, go get it. Well, all right, thank you. So the guy says, what's that about? I says, well, that's the captain. Is that one of them captains? I heard a rumor you're offering him twice the going rate to go do this. And what's this business about you buying cannons off? What's going on? What are you guys doing here? Well, we're going to need the cannons for defense. We don't have enough, and the British have us under sanctions. We also got, if you look over here, yonder, you're going to notice over here, these guys, look, right there, we got 6 giant saw blades coming in. Those are going to go right out. Each one of those saw blades is a new lumber mill. Yeah, but we got plenty of lumber. Well, the way things are going, we're going to be expanded. We got new shipyards up here that we got to get going. We got a whole lot of stuff to get going. And this guy's, I don't know. Let me jump you forward. The very same characters. We were involved in the War of 1812, jumping forward. And they come in and they're crying. So the British invaded. He says, if you don't have 300 cannons for us, we're not going to be able to hold the line. Oh, well, here you go. Here's a map right here. You go over here. They're going to have 300 cannons for you right here. So you'd be able to equip your troops, and it's not far away from where you... Oh, thank God. Thank God. Says, you got any more cannons? Oh, well, let me show you this paperwork. Oh, you got 600 cannons stored over here. You got 1,200 cannons over here. We've won the war. You got 1,200 more cannons. We've won the war. This is real history, people. Real history. Because you have forefathers got brains to know what to do. This is important to American history. This is stewardship at its best. So I wanted to explain some of these facets so that you would understand something about how our government was always engineered from the very beginning, because although we ended up negotiating more and more deals and letting more and more regions and states together, the original deal by all of us that started it, so to speak, you could say, was the deal is the government is supposed to help us facilitate trade and to promote financial well-being. And some people don't need to be confused about how the different possibilities are of the way we can get that done. Because there's a lot of confusion. Today, you have a bunch of people that are bringing European instrument philosophies in that were designed to destroy colonial constitutional capitalism. Royal German Empire, about 1840, set out on a design of a huge clandestine plan. There's extreme history there. It's extreme. It deals with them bribing, trying to get a hold of chemical territory. It goes with them bribing people because they wanted to ban the growing of hemp. They wanted to stop us from working with fibers, from working with any form of basically chemicals, because we knew how to do composite construction, filament winding. We knew how to do that. Later, it becomes a big key. The Civil War. See, the records show that we actually had the ability to filament wind submarines and gun turrets, and basically also incorporate layers of cork, do more winding. But it was very time consuming. There was an expense involved. It was time consuming. And we were basically, well, we didn't have much time. We had to press stuff into service, so we just did them out of metal. That didn't work out so well. Cannonballs hitting turrets, submarines, turrets, boom, 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 cannonball after cannonball hitting them. They were ringing like bells. The sailors inside had their their nervous system was ruined from all of this acoustical shock damage. There were people around the world that were they stood up and they listened. We shocked the world, showing submarines and metal gun turrets. We shocked the world. The British were shocked. The Europeans were shocked. The Germans were shocked. There are many instances involving discussions at parties that appear in journals where people witness discussions between Germans, royals, and British royals, literally with members of the Admiralty of Britain, respective to Germans. As the Germans later would say things like, oh, yeah, we got this submarine project. You found it. Yeah. Well, we wanted to keep these guys going on something. You know that these things can't stand up to compete against the great battleships of the Royal Navy. You know what happened with the Americans. I mean, we tried to explain this to some of the guys, but they were putting their foot down. They wanted to build these things because they were smaller and cheaper. But they can't compete in war against British naval vessels. Well, the guy at the Admiralty just keeps laughing. He's laughing. Big joke repeatedly made at some parties. Britain felt a bit more, at least publicly, that they were feeling sound. What they didn't understand is that later on, the plans for the German Empire to build a submarine fleet were being hidden. They were being hidden far in advance of when people thought that philosophy was starting. And their plan from the very beginning was not to build a navy capable of confronting the big navies of the world. Their plan was to take over commerce worldwide, to hijack it. See, the financial profit of hijacking ships and having key port areas around the globe where they could run these commercial ships, unload the cargo, and keep the ships in a form of impound would mean that they would be denying resources that would be utilized in war, that would be utilized in need for citizens of other nations to maintain key supplies. This was the Germans' plan from the very beginning: make high profit and be able to be successful, to win. The idea was to win in a new creative way. We got to see what this looked like in World War I and World War II. There's a lot of devastation in it. We had to come up with brilliant ways of making many ships. We came up with the Liberty ship plan, among other things. So, understanding the long-term history of the bribery, the involvement of the spies, the involvement of basically the Royal German Empire to do different types of manipulation on a wide spectrum, how they paid people who were Marxist, how they paid people who were communist, how they paid people who were socialist, all these other entities, the enlightened this, there's all of these entities they bought and paid for. They paid for people to do different types of protest. They developed these tactics and techniques, many of which we see are basically a form of evolved techniques that we see here now today occurring. These are foreign instrument designs. This is something that many people don't quite understand, the tactical table value of how this all works. So we constantly have a series of people who designed something beginning in about 1840 as they weaponized data to make all forms of designs, to infiltrate medical facilities, universities, to utilize pharmaceuticals manufactured at a wholesale level, basically as currency. They would get people with PhDs addicted if this clicks in your head. So the university, so they were putting poison in all over the place. Why? They had buildings. They had hundreds of people that would work, sometimes in the same building, on master tactical table plans. And it would be not just military warfare. In other words, this is just not a field of battle. They would change, and these maps have to deal with cities and businesses and locations and rural areas and resources and schools and universities. They would just keep changing. It was a massive economic modeling, tactical table situation. It would cover legal systems. They would open up and look at law, and you got 200 people looking at 200 different samples of law. These are experts to be able to design things to work a certain way. They would do these stand and sit exercises for who has a good idea to assert. They would sit, they'd think, they'd look, they'd stand when they're ready to make a move so they could get addressed. A human computer system developed by the Royal German Empire. So when they would design things and go across the vast scope of categories and deal with going into law, they would be designing stuff. Judges today 1, 3, 5, 7 judges. They have some of them don't really grasp the power of the design of hundreds of people focusing on advanced legal skullduggery, advanced methods to keep making different laws and making flaws in those laws so that they can exploit those laws, so that they can change those laws, how it was done. We're talking about mechanisms designed to do occupation, to divest and destroy civilization in favor of a different matrix. Marxism, communism, socialism, those were weapons designed by the Royal German Empire that they would point at various areas. They would work with them. They were designed to be puppeted. So this mass diversified master puppeting scheme that the Royal German Empire came up with is something that few people really understood. Okay, so that having been said, we've got some history locking in here. Now, keep in mind all this stuff. Mass conception, to have radically large, intricate design mechanisms tested, designed to be able to circumvent certain governments, certain philosophies, certain, people, literally people and races. How to come up with sub-propagandic books to deal with what some people would believe about this race or that race, how to subsectionalize it, how to individually target special teams to be able to do specialized deception. A very intricate working of a master puppeting scheme. This is what was developed by the Royal German Empire. Their child mechanisms they created have outlived them. The Royal German Empire is basically, for the most part, either gone extinct. It's faded away. Oh, sure, they passed the torch to various parties, but many of their children died, not necessarily incredibly wealthy, but well off. But they saw no point to continue in doing what their parents wanted to do. In many cases, they just, no, I don't want to do this. I don't want to deal with this. This is not me. So they walked away. But the child mechanisms that they invented, Marxism, communism, socialism, etc., a whole bunch of this, those still remain. We have more than 300 million dead people in the world today because of these child mechanisms created by the Royal German Empire. And people really don't understand the depth. And people, there's a lot more players around the world. Obviously, there's a lot more players around the world doing stuff. But specifically, we have parties that they were jealous. From the very beginning, they were jealous. American colonial constitutional capitalism was very alluring to people worldwide. People from all over the world wanted to come to the United States because of what we made, what we built, what it's supposed to mean. So we had a lot of people wanted to attack and destroy that. And the Royal German Empire was quite effective. They literally had chemical plants and munition plants, building munitions that were being shipped to Europe that were killing our own people in World War I. Look it up if you don't believe me. Now, the thing is getting to the point of how to build the new Stuarts is crucial because we have an entire original core of a series of philosophies that has basically come under repeated long-term attack. And it deals with core understandings that we as Stuarts never sacrificed our rights to have and run our own courts, have our own militias. Here, when you would get new members of your militia, you would introduce them by sending letters to a representative and say, here's our new members. Would you please outfit them with firearms, etc.? You don't believe me? Go look through history. You're going to find this. It's part of the deal. the ability of any citizen at any time that's, let's call it, you better be in the Stuarts class as far as the mindset. It's about the mindset. I can't emphasize that enough. It's about a mindset. It's almost like a spiritual being. In fact, it is a spiritual beingism, to be frank about it. It's very highly ethical, very highly creative. It's about the real reason why we have a contest for people to run for office, to decide to say, okay, I'll do some service for a while. I'll be an employee of the people, the stewards. And people misinterpret what it all means. They misinterpret. The people is not every human being on the planet. When the term "we the people" is stated, that is a closed room statement. It's we the people who are here present now in the room. Because those are the people that were speaking. Because then they state before God and all, we proclaim. Well, you have other people that have decided to say that, well, public is all the people in all the world. No, it's not. A horrible screw-up of what the original meaning of the people is. Read the document slowly and understand what it's saying. And once again, don't get yourself screwed up looking at the annotated versions. You have to read and grasp the original version and what those words actually meant, because there's deeper, full context meaning to understanding what they meant. Because it is a contract, a new contract, that is endorsing and fulfilling other pre-existing contracts. Again, we're on Constitution number 5, by the way. But it validates other contract existences. This is a common sense staple situation, cohesive, and people don't understand. So we have 275 million people that I would say clearly fit in the Stuart class. 175 million people by blood. Your blood inheritance is that your bloodline served in the military, paid certain key emergency or temporary taxes to be able to buy all the great lands. This is what we have to talk about, the great land ownership, about the land stock that still hasn't been properly issued yet. But now we're in modern times, we can do it because we have blockchain technology. We can do it digitally at a very efficient rate. And that's part about this, what this Stuart series is about, is how to explain to people the very creative high-end options of best management, of best constitutional scenarios, of best colonial constitutional capitalism. I'm going to close this part here with laying it straight out. Our whole system was designed to run off of printing notes and justification and using these systems based upon the new assets that we built. We were supposed to have unlimited access to the Treasury to do so, as long as it was a good, prudent, wise deal. Our proper Treasury rights must be restored. Our special, extended, separate governance management as stewards must be restored and enhanced. We have to have a separate governance system that also stops any diluting of our voting powers, because we have financial vestations into those actions where newcomers do not have a participation. They do not financially participate and assist in the purchase and ownership of certain assets. We're going to talk a lot more about that in the next upcoming episode. You're with Michael Crosby. I'm talking about the new stewards.